Who else?
Look, I would say the same thing. My grandmother did. My grandmother raised me. My father was in my life, but it was like, come get me on the weekends and things like that. So she pretty much only emphasized like him being a provider, taking care of his kids, and not beating on you. Like, as long as he's not putting his hands on you, as long as he's paying the bills and taking care of the kids, and doing that, pretty much that's it. Not really about, making sure he has a purpose, it has a direction, that he's a leader, that he's honest with himself and with you.
So they didn't tell you that. They didn't tell you that other stuff. They just told you as long as he don't beat you up, he helped pay bills and he helped with the kids.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And then now you're saying these other things are what you understand now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Keep going. You said.
Having purpose, integrity. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a sore throat.
No, you're fine. And I love what you said. I love that you guys understand what you were raised to believe, because and I want you to really receive this. The original things that you were taught about what type of man you should be attracted to, or if you're a man, what type of man you should be, it tells you a lot about why you went through a lot of the things you went through early on. Meaning why you picked the type of guys you picked. If you're a guy, why you did the things that you did, why you attracted the type of females that you attract. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? Like what you believe was the thing to look for, what you believe the qualities were in a good man or an appropriate man for you to, try to be in a relationship with. It tells you a lot about why your relationships early on went the way that they went. And this is why I talk about things being our responsibility, our accountability. Stuff didn't just happen to us. This is why I also speak a lot about generational curses, because if you understand what you guys are saying, different people, different parts of the world, you know what I mean, in this Zoom, you're saying, hey, I was raised, generational curses, meaning in my upbringing, before I knew anything, the people that were supposed to give me information about life gave me this particular information. And that's the information I used before I got my own information from the world. That's the information I used to pick people, to pick guys, to pick, women, to decide how to act if I'm a guy. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? And then I want somebody else to go tell me what you understand a good man to be. Alize, you were going to say something. It looks like you're talking, but you're on mute.
Yeah, I was going to say something. It's just weird, like, with the timing, how you're doing this Zoom, because this past Thanksgiving, I went back to my grandma's house. Everyone's there, the family. And, it's 5 of us, 5 girls. And I have a little sister. She's 21. Mm-hmm. She's never been in a relationship before. Mm-hmm. And I came to find out, my little sister, 21 years old, her first boyfriend is 43, and she lives with him. I never knew this. I live in Miami, so when everyone goes back to grandma's house for the holidays, the business starts coming out. Mm-hmm. And my mom and my grandma, they were praising it, and they were like, oh, well, as long as he pays the bills and he buys her what she wants, everything is okay. And I was like, me and my grandma, we literally got into an argument, and I'm like, how do you think that's okay? She's 21, he's 43. Like, that's unethical. I don't think that's okay. Mm-hmm. And like we're talking about right now, like, I think her name was Shanika. Mm-hmm. She said her grandma raised her to believe as long as the bills are paid and he's not putting his hands on you, that's a good man. Mm-hmm. But they don't talk about everything else that matters. And I felt like it was so nasty, so dirty. And honestly, like, no disrespect to my mom and my grandma, but this past holiday, I was at home like, dang, like, the women in my family are kind of slow. You know what I mean? Like, like, is that making sense? Like, when you leave home,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When you leave home and you go out and you learn new information, then you come back home and you get around your other family members, and you just sit back and you're like, dang, like, y'all kind of slow. Like, this is why we not getting nowhere. Like, the women in my family, like, dang, like, my grandma got 5 kids, all of them got different dads, my mom got 5 kids, all of us got different dads. I don't have kids yet, but I'm like, damn, like, it's a I'm sorry for cursing, but it's like, it's a pattern here. And it's like, when I was trying to, like, teach some knowledge, like, yeah, I don't think that's right for her to be dating a 43-year-old guy. they gave me pushback. And I'm
Right.
like, dang, we really arguing on Thanksgiving about this. And I'm like, the timing of your Zoom is just so important to me because I just went through this like last week.
I'm going to tell you, and I love what she's bringing to the conversation. Here's what y'all have to understand. Coming off of the question I asked you guys, as you look back at what you were taught, the type of man you should be aiming for, the type of man you should be aiming to be if you're a man. When you look at that, you have to understand that what you were taught was based on the information that those that raised you had, right? And so as times change, as the world changes, as what we face in the world changes, as the things that press against our character and our ways as people change, and we change with our character, so do our views and beliefs. They don't have to wildly be different, but they have to be up to date with the times. Do y'all understand what I'm saying by that?
Yes.
Yes.
Like when we talk about relationships in any capacity, we have to be logical and we have to stay up to date with the way the world is operating now. So if you going off of your granny's beliefs all the way around the board in 2023 and your granny was born back in, 1940, you see what I'm saying? Times have changed. So there are foundational things that you can use as a guide, but then there has to be some logic, some reality, some I am woke right now, right? And I'm weighing what I was raised off of against reality right now. That has to take place in order for male or female, you to operate out of maturity. Do y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So when you express, okay, I have a family member that's 21, she's dealing with a guy that's 40 something years old, and it comes from the beliefs that my grandmother and mother taught us that as long as he don't beat you, as long as he pay bills, and as long as he's, a presence there with the kids, you have what is a good man, right? In times that they came up, that was enough then for a good majority of women, especially with the limited rights, especially with the less progressive thinking of women back then and the world back then in regards to independence of women. Do you guys understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
When you get into being a grown adult now in 2023 and you understand things about psychology and mental health and manipulation and control and power and influence and things like this, this is when you can have adult conversations that, yes, they're both grown and they can be in a relationship with whoever they want, but there's a good chance that there is some imbalance in the healthy sharing of power in the relationship. Do y'all see what I'm getting at?
Yes.
Alize, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
And it's not about us. It's not about even you as an individual trying to do something about it. When you have conversations with people that struggle to understand this, you have to talk about the things that I'm speaking on right now. Meaning, like, there is nothing flat out wrong with the idea of you being 21 and wanting to date somebody that's 43. That basic concept. Nothing wrong with that. But if we start talking about the psychology behind wildly older people dealing with younger people, and then we get into the different things that me, nor you, nor your grandmother could argue is probably going on, this is when you could shed some light on like a healthy debate about why this is concerning. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want y'all to genuinely understand, because as we go through this, when we talk about conversations about what a good man is, when you speak to women, right, there's these different definitions, which is why I'm asking y'all to tell me your definition. There are a lot of women that will say, no, it's not just about being a provider and not beating me up. Like paying bills and not beating me up is not enough. And then you will have women that are, strongly standing on exactly what y'all saying you no longer believe to be true, which is that, no, yes, as long as he doesn't beat me up and as long as he paying bills, he's a good man. Y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now, who else? What is your definition, or what do you understand, and what were you raised to believe a good man is?
I would say, like how Frank said, I didn't have my mama tell me exactly what a good man was. However, I did see examples of what a good man was because both my sisters are both married, and I would watch how they would interact with my sisters. Now, it was a two different dynamic. One of my sisters was a little more conservative, and the relationship with her husband was more so, quiet, but they still had fun. They would clown around. They would communicate. They would joke. They would go on dates. They would spend time with each other, check in. On the other hand, my other sisters, they would argue, but they would sit down and come back and talk. They would, their life of the party and stuff like that. So I would put both of those two together and watch both men on an opposite perspective of, okay, well, he's sitting there, he communicate with my sister, he'll come back, he'll apologize. Or, okay, he'll sit there and be like, well, I don't agree with this. She might get mad, but she'll come back and be like, hey, you know what? I ain't like what you said, but we gonna go ahead and agree to disagree, or we gonna go ahead and say, hey, you know what, let's go with your option. Or, he might say, okay, let's go with your option, babe, or something like that. So I tried to take some of the examples of what they were doing in their relationships from both sides to apply that to myself.
Did you ever get to have a direct, healthy, or just general conversation with either of your sisters or their husbands about what a good man is?
I did. I spoke to my oldest sister's husband, and he told me, as far as, a good man, of course, like everybody else said, providing and stuff like that, but he also said it's good to allow a man to express himself, which is something he said he's learning to do, because at first he didn't really do that with my sister. They would always bump heads, and she's hot-headed and she wouldn't listen. But as he got older, he started to change his dynamic of how to talk with her and work on things like that. So I took in, because I would go to him and I would pick men that would honestly distract me in relationships that don't bring no value. But I'm just so blinded by, okay, he a good looking man, he do this, he do that. Like you said in your slides, going for the bare minimum. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So with that, it was like, okay, let me listen to his version, because he's, he's saying, yes, you need a provider, yes, pay bills and stuff like that. But a man also has an emotional side too. So, you gotta know how to care to that too. Like, don't just dish out that he ain't got no say so, or you can't hear him out, or he can't, voice his opinions on certain things, and you can go with that. Like you said, you still need a leader. Leading still means, okay, let me step to the side and listen to how he is emotionally. If you know the fact that we as women connect emotionally, yes, you gotta be logic sometimes, but let me hear him out.
And I love what you're saying, because I'm gonna definitely put into context the masculine versus the feminine. And I love the part of what she's saying that introduces to the conversation that when we discuss this stuff about being a good man, what I want as women in here, I want you to really be honest with yourself, even if you're not honest with us out loud. Do you have a energy that is welcoming of a good man? Because even with what y'all just brought to the table about what you were raised to believe a good man was, to have a man that is disciplined with his aggression, with himself, with his physical, right? The whole grandma said, don't get no man that beat on you. The aspect of a man that pays bills, right? He is financially stable and useful in regards to bill paying. And then the idea of, helping with the children. These are things that you guys introduced. There are certain ones of us as women that we don't have what it takes to maintain a relationship with that type of man. Even if we just going off those three things. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't, in our female circles, we don't talk about this enough. We play so much of a victim to the point where it's almost disgusting. You know how, for example, Alizé expressed the whole 21 to 42-year-old dating is disgusting, man to younger woman. It's disgusting with us as women how we pretend as though we are a victim of everything, because it's a form of manipulation. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? The same way I say you have to introduce to the conversation if you're going to talk about a viewpoint of, I don't think somebody that old should be dating somebody that young. And you start introducing like the idea of manipulation. The maturity levels aren't the same. One is getting over on the other. The other one is probably more complete. There's different directions that I already know, you would go with the conversation. When we look at us as women and we talk about relationships, before we get into speaking on men, right? We have to be accountable that we're disgusting with the way that we pretend that we don't know what type of energy we bring into situations. This is why it's important for us to really, as a community of women, talk more about femininity. Talk more about this overly independent masculine role that we play. Talk more about the damage that we're doing to children when we're only raising them with a woman in charge and they don't see both sides. And then young boys are pushed out to be men with the emotional capacity of a woman. And females are being pushed out with all of the strength of their mother, but they have no type of understanding of how to take direction from a man. Then you take that same young woman, i.e. some of us, right? And you say, go get a man that's a provider. Go get a man that does not beat on you. Go get a man that if he gets you pregnant, he's going to help you with those children. But every bit of what you taught this young woman, right, is how to be independent. These type of men, even that the old folk taught y'all was good men, you cannot get them being a 2023 independent woman that don't want to hear shit from a man. And these niggas ain't shit. Fuck them. You gonna do everything how your mama taught you. It don't match. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And there are a lot of young women. For example, I'm sure, like the family member that she mentioned, the girl probably gets confused at times, not with her man, right? Being that he's older, not with that, but with the female peers her age that probably are telling her, girl, you're supposed to be independent. You ain't supposed to be, there is confusion because you got, those that raised you telling you, listen, he don't beat on you. He pay bills. He's a provider. If you get pregnant, seems like he's going to help you with those children. You did good. But then when you try to go fit in as a young woman with your peers, and I'm not just talking about 21-year-olds, because it's females 35, 40 still arguing with me on Instagram about how what I'm saying does not make sense. But you can't be accepted with the women because it's like, ew, you with that 43-year-old man, you ain't independent, you ain't got your own business, you ain't working, you ain't paying your own bills. Girl, he gonna do this to you, bitch, you gonna get left and it's gonna happen. It is confusing. Do y'all see? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm offering context to look at it from, different perspectives.
I definitely understand, love. And I was thinking about as well, like, hearing that from my grandmother and my mom, good man, provide, but then...
How do I get him?
Right, and then you also tell me, well, don't depend on a man for nothing. Make sure you always have your own.
It's contradicting like a motherfucker.
Right, so it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to have my own, but I need to depend on him, and I need to have this thought in my mind, okay, just in case this don't work, I can just go get up and leave. I can just drop it, and I can just go ahead and go about my business, and not really teaching relationship skills and how to work through anything.
Yep. 100%. She is 100% correct. And again, there is a confusion amongst us in the community of women where it's like, on one hand, society is saying, be independent, stand on your own. The nigga is going to fuck you over in the end. The man is going to do you wrong, so you better have your back up. Then on the other end, it's like, be more feminine. Lock in a providing man, a masculine man, because we're going to talk about masculinity in the masculinity in a good man versus the violent, spaces of masculinity that is misunderstood for what a man is supposed to be. Does anybody have any questions about what we're saying right now?
No, I understand.
Everybody on the same page with this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So anybody else, who else wants to share? What did you know a good man to be based on how you were raised?
For mine, it was a little confusing because my dad used to beat on my mom, and my grandfather from what I heard, used to do the same thing with my grandma, and they're both alcoholics. But when they were around me, I never got hit. They always protected me from my mom when she would want to give me a whooping. They would take care of me when I was sick. They did what they were supposed to do. And then it's skewed it, because I know that sometimes, like, a good man is not an alcoholic. But for me, it was like I didn't see that part of it. It was like, well, it is what it is on that part. But then what made it weird for the relationship for my mom with me and her, because he would treat me a certain way and treat her a certain way. And it was like, I don't know if it was jealousy or what, but it was weird. And then she would use me to try to manipulate him. Do you know what I mean? Like, she would say, oh, go ask your dad for $200. Go ask your dad to go do this stuff, because he's not going to tell you no. And it was like, why put me in it? Go tell your dad, don't drink that, because you don't want him getting drunk. So for me, it was just weird, because it was like the men in my life treated me a certain way, but I saw them treat the other women differently.
And I love that you introduced that to the conversation, because this is something that I say a lot, right? And you were a child in the scenario that you were describing, but as you've grown into a woman, I'm sure you see the same man could treat different women different ways.
Exactly. Yes.
And as women, we don't like to hear this. We don't like to hear that, you are what you attract, right? We don't really want to hear that, because if we accept that philosophy, then when we look at all of these fucked up relationships or different men that we allowed to sleep with us, we have to then admit that there is some fucked up shit going on within us, right? The other part of it is we don't like to accept that philosophy, because we like to believe if we broke up with a man or the relationship didn't work, that he's not going to move on and find better than us. Like most women, you cannot get them to admit that this man may move on and find a better, more put together, mature woman than I was. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? It takes a grown person to have these kinds of conversations, male or female. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
When you talk to women about failed relationships, the story is always, whether it's their baby daddy or a boyfriend, that whoever he with now is not better than them. Either she uglier, fatter, not good. She gonna tolerate the stuff that I wouldn't tolerate. There's always these philosophies in our mind or program beliefs that we were the best, right? And we just got the shit end of the stick, and that is just that. But in order to, and this is going to be a trigger for some of y'all, but as a woman, in order to stay with a undisciplined man, you have to have a certain flawed self-esteem. In order to stay with someone that is whooping your ass and beating on you, sexually abusing you at times, there are things within you that are attracting that is putting you in a space where you're staying and tolerating that. And those are the things you need to see about in order to rid your life of that particular type of person. Do you see what I'm saying? So essentially, when you understand what I'm explaining from a psychological space, you're the problem, not them. And it's not because what they're doing is okay. It's because if I build me up, if I genuinely look at me and become more accountable, I would never tolerate any of this shit. I wouldn't sit around for the beatings or the non-discipline with your sex or your aggression or your work ethic or your enthusiasm towards being a good person to the household, to the family, to the children. And as women, we struggle to accept these philosophies and have real conversations about it. We just like to believe, I'm a good woman. I've been doing everything right. And he just came over here out of the blue and just started beating on me. And it's been just all his fault. Nothing for me to look into. Once we broke up, I got rid of the problem. He's just going to beat on the next woman. There is nothing wrong with me. And then you find yourself in repeat cycles to where even if you're not getting re-abused physically or with another person that can't pull their weight in regards to finances, you just end up finding another person that is equally fucked up and it's just coming at you in a different way. Who can relate? Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
I can definitely,
relate.
I definitely can relate to that.
I relate 2,000%. I can definitely relate to this because I think about this in the context of like there's a lot of conversations about narcissism and narcissistic people and narcissistic relationships and stuff like that. For a narcissistic relationship to function, there has to be a codependent in there.
Say
For
that
there
again.
To be a pimp, there has to
say that.
For there to be a narcissistic relationship, there has to be a codependent in that relationship. Therefore, essentially, what I'm saying is that for there to be a pimp to exist, there has to be a hole. There has to be a hole in there with that.
Yep.
A hole in there with that. I come to theorize that people that go into so many narcissistic relationships, you are the codependent in that. So all these people that you are attracting, that's because you're attracted to narcissist.
Yep. And I'm gonna tell you something else. There is this very logical concept that we like to overlook. If I walk in a room and I'm dealing with a man that's covered in shit, right? He's genuinely like how, somebody said a man should never put his hands on a woman. He's genuinely covered in shit, violent shit, wrong shit. It could be narcissistic shit. It could be, bullshit, just whatever. Eventually, some of that shit is going to get onto who? On me as the individual. Right. This is the idea. So you sit in shit too long, you don't even realize anymore how bad the shit stinks. And now there are things going on in this room that are now affecting your character. The other part of it is, if you understand attraction and the law of attraction, and just the concept of energy, right? Like Linwood just said, if you with a narcissist, there has to be something in your personality and in you that the person can find a pocket to coexist with. This is why a predator has a prey, right? Like someone has to be that weaker being that I'm able to take advantage of in order for the advantage to take place. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? So in our culture, we tend to sit around, especially as females, and we play victim so much, we never have conversations about the real shit. But if you with a fuck nigga, there's some fuck shit going on within you. There are those of us in life, we have not experienced these same things from the same people that certain people have experienced. And it has to do with what you will allow them to do to you. That has to do with your inner beliefs, your paradigms that you were programmed with, has to do with your attachment styles, your personality issues, your self-esteem. It has to do with your boundaries. It has to do with your trust with self. It has to do with your understanding of logic. It has to do with, are you up to date with the time and the way that up to date with times and the way the world works? We don't talk about this enough.
Yeah, not knowing, not really having an image or a definition of what a man was throughout all these years I've been in relationships with different women. It allowed me to stay in shit, sit in shit, and compromise with shit that didn't really go with the relationship. It just went one-sided. So I actually developed a shell and learned to cope with. That's just the way shit goes, and sit in shit, and then realize how much time and how much mental capacity I was losing at that time. And then once I end up by myself, only thing I'm left with is the shit that I've been through. And now I'm ciphering through everything that I did wrong or what I thought I did wrong because it wasn't talked about. I didn't have an image. I didn't have an identity. I didn't have boundaries.
And then what
Everything
about,
you just named, I didn't have none of this shit.
Right. And then what about the people that allowed it? Like, just if you think about what you're saying, and I'm saying this to y'all, before we get into the meat of this Zoom, because, I have conversations often with men, and they talk about how when they were in a season where they were just trash, just being trash. I have conversations with men, and they are accountable enough to admit, I was trash. I was being trash to the woman I was with. I was being trash to the females I was fucking on. A lot of them express moments where they can tell the female knew that I was trash or operating out of trash character or doing trash. She articulated that it was trash. She articulated that it was wrong. She consciously knew that this is not okay. She constantly voiced it wasn't okay. And they would say, but she ain't go nowhere. She ain't go nowhere. And they're not saying this because it made what they were doing any more right. That's not why, this part of the conversation, it comes up because I, at some point as a man, realized I'm doing some fuck shit and the way that I'm operating is not, positive. But she did as well, and she ain't go nowhere. She went nowhere. So the same way, these men that I'm speaking with in regards to this conversation I'm talking about, the same way they got to a point where they had to be accountable that my behavior was trash. Like, you as the female being involved with this, you have to be accountable. I sat up in trash. I was attracted to trash. I knew that this dude was going to continue to cheat. I knew that he would continue to put his hands on me. I knew that he would continue to tell me lies. And I kept asking questions for, to receive the lies. I knew that the nigga wasn't no good to the first child we had. And I laid up, no discipline with myself, and had another one. Same way he knew he wasn't being shit. I knew I wasn't shit either. I had no boundaries, and he was taking advantage of that. I knew my self-esteem was in a poor space and that, I had some depression issues and some things to go see about. But guess what? I didn't value myself enough to go see about me. Even before leaving the relationship, I never gave a fuck about me enough to go see about me. So he treated me accordingly. This is why when you look at people that commit crimes, right, from a low level to a wildly heinous level, there are scientists or, social scientists, or let me just say people in general that want to study these people, right? And when they get the information from these people that have done, a lot of bullshit, a lot of illegal shit, a lot of heinous crimes and things like that, when they talk to the people, all of them have a strategy on who they target. Do y'all see where I'm going? If you paid attention in high school or college and you took psychology and stuff, it gets to a point where they start talking to you about serial killers, serial rapists, people that have these psychopathic personalities and things like that. They didn't just go out and pick the strongest minded female with boundaries and all of this to try to go take advantage of. They didn't go out and commit crimes to fucking the Mike Tysons of the world. Niggas that look very able-bodied in defending themselves. That's not what they did. They looked for exactly what Linwood said. So when you find yourself going through like a lot of bullshit, they prey on the fucking weak. And I've said this before on my platform, every time they talk to pedophiles, every time there's a documentary or some sort of taped interview where they talk to somebody that is an abuser of children, they like to rape and molest and, do things to adolescents that is not ethical, right? Children, that is not ethical. They talk about consistently, it's easier to get the kids where the household does not have a man, where the mother is some independent woman that wants to do everything by herself, has no real support system that have men around. They talk about how the families full of women are easier to penetrate. They're easier to find a way in. Do y'all understand what I'm like? These are, they're divulging their secrets on how I get to your babies. And then we so big on out loud defending the idea there's nobody over in my house but me and my babies. Single mothers winning. But yet the people that rape and molest and murder and beat children say, we'll take the single mother households. Give us the poor single family household setup headed by mostly women any day. Give me that. Those are the ones that I can lure their teenage daughters in. Those are the ones that I can get their young boys to come and, come play. The logical men, the father figures, the ones where if you make it over here and you touch my kids, you probably gonna get the all living hell beat out of you, and I will go and do that time with my chest out. We want the families where those guys are missing. We want the ones where it's just women, it's a grandma, it's a big mama somewhere, 2 aunties, the mama, some sisters, and some small babies. Do y'all understand? Like, if you're not up to date with the times, you will be so caught up in some of the old bullshit that you won't realize technology has allowed us. humans willing to be more open about their mental health and their fucking psychotic issues has helped us to understand how to protect ourselves. But if you don't read, if you're easily triggered to where things like this you can't accept the reality of, you will go around and you will continue to birth babies, right? With the belief that, oh, my family good. It's just me and my aunties and my grandmas and them. Like, you know what I mean? Raising these children, and that's all right. Y'all, I want to know that y'all genuinely understand what I'm explaining. Like, we are far enough advanced in technology and, you know, social science and talking to people that have done fucked up shit. We have enough information to know what the fuck is going on, who's being targeted, what setups are best for children to be raised in a balanced and healthy environment. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I see. I understand what you're saying, and I seen it firsthand because my mom's husband, they was married for 7 years, and the entire time he was messing with one of my little sisters. And when he married my mom, it was 3 of us. I'm the oldest and the last one. Both of us had our fathers in our life, but the middle one, she didn't. And I was living with my grandmother, and my mom was already she went through molestation herself. And of course, back at that time, they didn't say anything. There was no mental health like it is today. And so she was already just a target herself just based on her unhealed trauma. And then her being a single mother with 3 little girls.
Those are the ones that the pedophile... I want you to genuinely hear what I'm saying. And I'm being vulgar on purpose. If you've seen, because I've seen, I say this all the time. I look at a lot of boring shit. Like, to the average person, it's boring. There are text upon text upon text. There are videos, psychology studies on fucking psychopaths. In the African American community, the way that we brag about women-headed households being set up, if all you gotta do is add a little bit of poverty, that's the ideal target for these kind of people. It's ideal for them. Imagine being a mother and you're supposed to love and protect your children, but your model of how you want your household is reflective of the same model that a fucking child murderer or a child molester or a serial rapist or a psychopath wants the house set up. Imagine saying, I'm going to set my house up the way that the pedophiles like it. I'm going to set my household up the way that the child murderers and the women rapers and the people that like to home invade and burglarize, I'm going to set my home up. I'm going to have kids and I'm going to make decisions every day to keep setting this bitch up where it matches, where they can get away more with their crimes, where it matches the type of shit they like. Imagine saying that. But we don't realize that's what we're saying because we don't educate ourselves. We just fucking for the feeling, birthing the babies for the emotional part, and the little bit of what a bitch fed us about the Bible and what we believe Jesus or God said about abortions or giving life. And then everything else is just based on feelings and watching the internet. And then you mix that with some of those program beliefs, like you said, from the old folks that raised you, that grew up in different times where they didn't even have this information. You look nuts. You look fucking nuts to walk your young son or daughter around with no male resources. You look nuts not to allow, even if you don't like your baby daddy, him a chance to bond with these children so they can go out in the world and say, whether my father's perfect or not, bitch, I got one. The mention of a dad makes pedophiles and certain people X you off the list as a target. They've asked these people that have raped and molested children, what about people that have home invaded or watched fam? What will turn you off from targeting a household? If you on one of your binges where you ready to get your private parts dealt with a child or a woman from a criminal space, they ask these people, what type of things makes you say, nah, we ain't gonna case that house out. Let me move on to the next target. It's the mention of fathers. That's one of the main things. Men, A nigga that's trying to commit a crime you don't want to from the criminal space. I don't want to walk in nowhere where it's going to be difficult to take the pussy or steal them kids or rape that woman or molest that child. I don't want to go in with the logical masculine male role model in the picture. I don't want to go into a household where there's a Frank, where if I do something wrong to the kid, he gonna take me outside and box the fuck out of me. I want a household where it's one of these single women, overly independent. If I molest or touch on her little baby, when she get the news from her child that I touched her, I can go in there and convince her. She lying, babe. I promise you I ain't do that, babe. No, I'm saying you gonna believe me or you gonna believe the kid. You know these kids be mad because I ain't their daddy. You know what? Like, are y'all catching my drift?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
When you realize what I'm saying, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I had a time with my ex who was by a mama and a daddy house, and at that time, my girl at that time she got a little girl about the age of my son. Probably, I think my son was a year older than her, and she had an older son, and he was a preteen. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting up there talking to her dad on the couch and everything, and like she was eating strawberries out his hand. I'm like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, Pop, you know she got two good hands, huh? He was like, that's my baby. So I understood it, grandpa treating, his grandchild. I understand. I was like, but they better than both of ours put together. Mm-hmm. He was like, that's my baby. That's what she want. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, that's cool. So I'm sitting there, about a couple minutes run by. This shit is just going through my head. Like, hold on, let me get deep into this. Mm-hmm. I said, so if you treat her like that now, and she's 6, at what age did you stop doing that? He told me 16. That triggered me. I'm
but
like,
this is
okay.
Frank. Okay. The main thing in what you're saying at this moment when you've seen it is, as a man, you know from a man's space what's sexual for a man and what's not. You see what I'm saying? And as a man, because you're less emotionally attached to shit, if you're in your masculine as a man, you don't have a feeling about severing a relationship over knowing that I'm seeing something that's not right. Women, you can play on us with this. That is why if you talk to pedophiles, are the ideal setup for them to do some pedophilic shit, right? Is a space where women run this. Because you can play on their feelings and their emotions.
That shit crazy because my girl didn't say shit about it. And I'm on the couch I'm trying to really know what the hell is going on. He told me 16. So I told him, I said, so if she going to the bathroom at 16, what you doing? I'm going to the bathroom with her. I said, nigga, you out your fucking mind. Mm-hmm. Right there in this house. I said, you out your motherfucking mind. Not my goddamn daughter. She was mad at me for at least about 2-3 weeks because I told her daddy that. She said it was disrespectful. I said, hey, I'm sorry I was disrespectful to your daddy, but I'll tell his ass again. Mm-hmm. Bullshit. You gonna be my woman? He ain't taking my fucking daughter to no fucking bathroom at 16. You out your damn mind. I'll kill your dad.
It's the things that you're saying is stuff that we overlook that's so heavy. It's stuff that we don't talk enough about. We don't, before becoming parents or when we become parents, we don't value these kind of conversations because by then you're so in your traumas. You're so in your, I'm just trying to do a good job based on what I see in my community or alongside me, that you forget the logical part, that we are in times where we have enough information for you to really get your own understanding of what makes sense. It's not about things being set up perfect or relationships being set up perfect. It is about, let me look at what's going on in the world. Let me believe what the fuck is actually going on in the world versus what I see, right? And let me move based on that. Let me make decisions based on that. It can weigh against my emotions, but I need to value that. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? Do anybody got any questions or anything they want to add on this specific point? Because I want to know that you understand.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. You can go.
Okay, I just wanted to add something in that relates to this. With how you said, you know, they prey on the single mother households. My mom, I wasn't necessarily say she was a full single mom, but she was. In the, if you was to just look, not mention my father who wasn't there, he was in a whole other state in rehab. They were still married, but if you was just to sit there and look, she's a mom. She has 3 kids in the house. You know, she by herself. She working, like you said, independent woman. Now, I had supposedly her guy friend was supposed to be my godfather. At the time, I was 19, and it made me uncomfortable because she would say, okay, well, if you need help or something like that, and I can't help you, call him. So I would call him, but it wasn't until a few times where I would call, he would come by the house, and he would always ask me for a hug. And at first, I'm like, okay, you know, I would give him a hug, but it was the way he would hug me back. And it made me feel uncomfortable. And the last time he hugged me, it was a little too long. His hands was a little too low. And when he would talk to me, he would use a certain tone. He would talk smoothly. But I would see how he would talk to my mom. And my mom, you know, even though he's my goddad, I could tell my mom kind of, you know, liked him. But it was as if his interest was more in me than it was in my mom. So the last time he hugged me too long, and was like, you know what, next time, you know, just call me. You ain't got to tell me. You ain't got to call your mama or ask your mama. Just take my number. Because I would go through my mom to get him. I didn't have his phone number. So he was like, you know, you just take my phone number and whatnot. And I got so uncomfortable because I got molested when I was 12 by my cousin. So when that happened, I immediately went and told him. I was scared at first. I was like, no, but I need to tell her. Mom, I spoke to, I said at the time, I spoke to God Daddy. I did what you said, called him, he needed help, this and that. But I said it made me uncomfortable the way he touched my back. He hugged me too long, his hands was a little too low, and I felt real uncomfortable. My mother went off on me. My mother asked me, do you like him? And she just, and it blew my mind. I'm like, are you serious? I'm coming to you about what he did, and you're getting upset at me as if I wanted him to do that? It blew my mind, and it was just, you know, it wasn't until later where my mom spoke to me, and we had a conversation afterwards. She was like, she got molested when she was younger. So it wasn't until then when I was like, okay, I guess that explains why you acted the way you acted. You didn't defend me or she didn't say anything to him. She didn't talk to him. And it just made me feel like, well, dog, is you my mama or you know?
But I'm going to tell you, and I want to first say, I am sorry that you went through that. All of the times that you went through that, you did not deserve that. No one deserves that. As a child, you're supposed to experience unconditional love, different life experiences, but never being violated at the hands of a predator. It was the responsibility of those that birthed you, the family unit that you were being raised in, to protect you. The idea is we don't have enough conversations about what a healthy family unit looks like, what is necessary for the protection of children. Even from a female space, we don't have the understanding that just telling your children, I'm going to just keep y'all away from men or keep men around, because this is what a lot of women do once they go through similar things like what you just described. They think that that's it. But then all you do is raise young women or children that don't know what a healthy male role model looks like. So you become even more of a target while trying to not make your kids a target. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then a lot of the generational curses, like what I talk about in our gender as women, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but there are a lot of us that, because we were violated, raped, or molested, we're almost accepting of it. If it occurs with our children, we're almost willing to look at it from a different perspective other than exactly what it is, because it happened to us. There is a thing within women when it comes to trauma that I don't want to be the only one. This is why we're the easiest to get together in trauma bond. There is comfort in the idea that, oh, he did that to you, he did that to me too. This is why even when you fast forward and we jump subjects, women will sit with other women that they don't know, and they will bond with the woman over the same man lying to both of them. Yeah, girl, let me tell you what he was telling me about you. And ooh, let me tell you what he was telling me about you. And bitch, when he was telling me, and it will turn into almost a thing that they're attracted to. That is so much trauma and negativity, but it feels so comforting to the emotion around it. And we don't realize this is one of the big reasons why we sit and allow younger generations of women to make the same mistakes and do the same bullshit and allow the same fuck niggas to create the same broken homes with us as the women we're allowing the ones under us and our children to make the same mistakes because we're not willing to have these accountability conversations like what we're having now. It's important that as you grow up, you grow the fuck up. And when I say that, I go back to, and some of y'all have heard me say this before, there is a time in all of our lives, whether we want to admit it or not, some of us are more blunt about it than others, but there comes a time in our lives when we know our parents, to a certain extent, didn't know what the fuck they was doing. The mama that the black community teaches you to not speak ill of and, always respect, and all she did some disrespectful shit. There are a lot of fucked up ways that a lot of us have that we got from our mother. There are a lot of fucked up ways and a lot of viewpoints and beliefs that are not right that we got from our fathers. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? When you grow up, you got to grow the fuck up and be willing to be honest. Even though you're my mother or even though you're my father and I love you, that's in a different category than me growing the fuck up and being honest about the bullshit you put us in. The environment you put us in. No, I'm not going to accept that this is the best you could do. No, I'm not going to accept that you were just being a mother during the time. No, I'm not going to accept that you ain't have sense enough to know that this shit didn't make sense. There are some of us in our community that we need to grow the fuck up and stop just pushing this belief that because this was grandma or big mama or auntie them that raised you, she ain't do nothing wrong. This is why a lot of my content is triggering, because I'm willing to challenge that in my own family and anybody else's. If some shit was done right, it wouldn't be showing up in us the way that it's showing up in these areas that I talk about. We are, as I fast forward to, the content that we're in this Zoom for, we are in a space where women around the world, women around the country, black women in low income, in urban areas, in ghetto areas, in hood areas, regardless of, your character, we all have a common agreement that there is a lot of bullshit going on with black men, right? But what we don't want to discuss or be real about is that a good majority of these men, and I'm going to explain something about statistics that women don't get, but a good majority of these men that we have an issue with in regards to them acting like bitches, them not stepping up and being disciplined, them not being responsible, them leaving the households and leaving children behind like they don't matter. They were raised by just a woman. We don't like to talk about that because it feels too uncomfortable to be labeled, right? But I will say this, and I'll use something simple for all of us to get on the same page. When we talk about statistics, whatever the majority of the group is doing, you can statistically and accurately label the group that. It does not mean that everybody in the group is exactly that. And this is, again, where women, especially when we have the single mother-headed household talk, right, about it producing the worst product, people always like to speak up about the smaller percentage. But I'll use government, so to speak. The idea is there are a lot of people that did not vote for Joe Biden to be president. But if you are in the United States of America, your president is Joe Biden. You could walk around and say, that's not my president. But based on the statistics, the polls, the numbers, right? When we all voted, right? The idea was the majority picked this nigga. So If you're a part of this group in this country, that's your motherfucking president. So if we do a statistical poll or we take some stats and the majority of our people are fucking a part of this higher percentage, that's what the fucking group is going to be labeled, even though some of you are not that. So if you take 100% of women that are single mothers and you look at the statistics and it shows a good 75 to 80%, north of 70% is where I will bottom line it at, are lying about what type of baby daddy they have, right? That means that the group is lying. Even though there's a 25 to 30% that are not a part of what I'm talking about, right? The group is labeled as y'all some fucking liars. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
Yes.
You don't have to like it, but it's the numbers. The same way people don't like who the president is. But bitch, if you look at the numbers, it is what the fuck it is. You don't like it? Do something about it. Do y'all see what I'm saying? It's the same when you hear me talk about stats. It's never a all. It's always, I go with what the higher percentage is. But a lot of us, we go with what we feel. I don't feel like what she's saying is correct. I don't feel. So I'm going to add in my small little piece of data that I collected from surfing Instagram or Facebook. I've read no studies. I've looked into no real statistics. I'm not, looking into what social scientists are studying. I don't care to, research myself. I'm just going to go with what the other people are saying to make me feel good. You don't want to hear the truth. But the truth is, this shit is not good for our culture. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So now when you get into, I'm trying to figure out this concept of what a good man is, how to attract one, how to coexist and maintain a space with a good man. We got to start with the foundation, right? So a man's upbringing plays a huge role in his character and his core beliefs. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
A man's upbringing and his programming as he was raised into an individual, right? It plays a big part of his character, the type of choices he's going to make, the discipline level he's going to have, the understanding for what responsibility and standing on business as a man means, right? Also, when we talk about relationships, what the old folks don't tell you is that in 2023, right, because they're not, dating in 2023. And when I say old folk, I'm talking about the ones that we referenced earlier that raised us. What they don't tell you is that emotional availability is right up there with a man paying bills, not beating on you, being there for the children. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
Anybody not understand this part?
I understand.
It may not have been a thing, and I want y'all to really embrace this. It may not have been a thing at all for your great-great-great-grandmother. In 2023, it is a thing of importance for a man to be emotionally available to his family unit or the woman he is trying to coexist with. This is one of those things that times have changed. There is so much programming of undisciplined behavior. There is so much lack of ethics in regards to sexual discipline. There is so much access in pornography and openness of women with our sexy side, our sexuality, our bodies, our asses, our breasts, our pussies. If you don't have some other way to connect with your guy outside of the lust in regards to sex, it ain't gonna fucking make it in 2023. Back when your great grandma put those beliefs down through the generations of women in your family about what type of man to look for, and he go to 3 basic things: long as he don't beat you, long as he come home and pay the bills, long as he helping you do for the kid. It's not the same in 2023. Do y'all understand what I'm saying about this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and it makes a lot of sense with how over-sexualized women are and the perception of us in social media and just like watching television, you know, things like that. So that makes a lot of sense.
This is why when we go to this next point, when you're raising young boys, men need to be around. Women do not view the world out of the lenses of a man. You don't have a dick. That motherfucker don't get hard on its own off of you just seeing certain stuff, smelling certain stuff, hearing certain stuff, listening to certain stuff. Your sexual arousal, your biology, the scientific makeup of a woman, the sexual drive of a woman is naturally different than a man. And the idea is when you look at 2023 and where we are, again, with the way that women are able to be open with their sexual side, their bodies, the lust is everywhere. Everywhere. You can try to create an account on social media and purposely try not. Go on social media and just only follow religious pages. Just go make you a profile, only follow church pages. Eventually in your For You page, some ass gonna come up. It's a fact. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There was a time in history for men that if you didn't turn the TV to one of those channels, or if you didn't order the dirty magazines, if you didn't order the dirty VHS tapes, if you didn't go seeking the porn, it wouldn't show up. That's not the case in this day and age. You don't have to look for ass and you're going to see it. You don't have to look for titties and you're going to see it. You don't have to look for booty holes and sex tapes and you're going to see them and hear about them. There was a time in history where if you didn't turn on the news, you probably wouldn't hear about certain sexual stuff or crimes or certain things. That's not the case in this day and age. Do y'all understand what I'm explaining?
Yes.
So because of that, I will stress again, when we talk about a good man in this day and age, there must be some emotional availability, because the sex or the lust of the idea of a man with a woman or two sex is not going to cut it. Anybody got any questions on that?
I feel like what you're saying makes a lot of sense, especially like now in our generation, people get with each other based off of looks, or oh, she has like 20,000 followers on IG and she pretty, she bad, I'm a wife her, or he a scammer, he got money, da da da, he paid the bills, I'm gonna get pregnant, I'm gonna have a baby, and then they end up together for like a good 6 months to a year, and then all of a sudden you're arguing constantly and you're wondering why it's not working. It's not that they're bad people, you just don't know each other. Because like had you would have gotten to know that person or that girl or that guy, you would have known this person is fucking slow, they lack basic communication, but you didn't know that because you didn't take the time to figure them out.
But I'm gonna tell you, if you, and I love what you're saying, if you understand what I'm explaining alongside what she's saying, this is why boys need men. Because the lust and the world pressing against our discipline from a sexual standpoint has changed for women, but it has immensely changed for men. And when you look at sexual discipline historically in women versus men, they've always been behind us on being sexually. This has always been a thing based on their biology. Do you guys see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now when you fast forward, if you're raising a young son or you are dating a man, There is something to be said about a boy or a man that has or had male role models in his upbringing to help him get a clear understanding of how to navigate this world from the lens that he sees it through, which is a male lens, not a woman. Anybody got any questions on this? So now when we date, right, as women, and we're trying to find a good man, we're dating, we see very clearly that there is a lot of female tendencies in men nowadays when we're dating. If you are a feminine being and you are trying to date a masculine being, especially in our culture, you can see it clear as day. Is there anybody that disagrees on them seeing it clear as day? It may not be with your man, but as you interact with men, you can clearly see there is something off with the idea of these men remaining in what we understand to be a male space.
Our young men and older men are so feminine. I see it on the emotional side. And I'm going to include my 19-year-old son in that, being that worst product of raising and being raised in a single home. However, through the tools, I'm learning how to talk with him and adjust and keep him around men so that they don't. He all boy, hypersexualized, how you even mention it, but the way he, because of the lack of how I taught him or the lack of being around his father. And I can admit today how I made it easy, and I'll say it that way, to not communicate with me, being on some fuck shit, yelling. Now I communicate with him, but our son is 19. So now he'll have a whole tantrum, have a whole bitch move, emotionally around here moping because you ain't got no bread or no this and that. And I'm able to now call it out. Son, you ain't mad. One, you're sexually frustrated. Two, you're mad at yourself because things ain't moving fast. Your confidence is low. However, I see the emotional immaturity due to the lack of not having a man around. Even with the men I'm talking to. You want to argue more than me. Never mind. That's a damn flag for me.
Thank you for being so honest, because, and this is the thing, Ophelia, as women, we don't have a problem saying these niggas sassy. These niggas want to argue more than bitches. These niggas want to act like they want to be a bitch. These niggas quoting female rap songs and riding around acting sassy. And the conversation we're having right now has nothing to do with gay or straight. I'm talking about just men in general having the ways of a woman in a setting where you are the man and we are the women, right? We agree so easily that this is going on. The problem comes when I start bringing up the root, similar to what Ophelia was willing to be real about. This is when the room gets split between the real women and the bitches that lie. They're getting it from coming off of a few decades of being raised and pushed with this agenda of this independent woman shit. I don't need a man. It could just be me and my children. The welfare system or me working 2 and 3 jobs got us. And you replace the father figure with that. And you overlook the statistics that has been collected over the years of what fatherlessness does to the household. Don't matter your reasoning as to why the father's not there. The effect of fatherlessness is the same whether your baby daddy died or your ass put him out. Or you had a one-night stand and you never told the person or didn't even know who it was. The effects are still the same, right? So the idea is when we get into us dating, we don't like the effects in the men, but we don't want to talk about the root, right? We don't want to talk about where it's coming from. Now, the idea is when you look at the concept of a good man in 2023, when you take a lot of these dudes that they went their whole upbringing seeing their mother, a woman, handle and run everything, it does teach them certain things about multitasking, because women, we are savages at multitasking, especially independent women. It teaches them certain things about that. It teaches them certain things about the strength of a woman. But the programming that it does is it has this man believing that it is perfectly okay for a woman to do these things, because that's my mama. God forbid, as a black man, I ever say anything was wrong with my mama. So I'm not going to pick apart the things that she did, because that's my mama. And she was the one that was there for me, right? And so now the idea is you have grown black men that don't want to talk about how they're programmed to believe that women running around doing everything like a fucking man is normal when it's not. They don't want to talk about that because they don't want to discuss anything that may make their mother not look like a fucking martyr. So when you try to have conversations with grown black men nowadays, and I'm talking about the ones that statistically fall in the category of what I'm speaking on, and you're like, hey, babe, we need to talk. Like, I'm starting to feel like you're not doing your part in the household. Like, I'm working. I get that you in between jobs or you making less than me right now. But, you know, when you do get off, you're not trying to find other ways to make more money or side jobs. You playing a video game until I get home. And then when I get home, I'm cooking for the kids. And then, you know, I'm getting them situated for bed. You kind of disconnected. We get into bed, you know, you want sex and, you know, I give it to you. But then we start the next day. And after a while of doing this, I feel like I'm doing more. And the nigga could even be a person whose character he's hearing you, right? I'm not a bad person, so I hear what Bay's saying. But Bay is weighing against my program belief. Ain't nothing wrong with you doing that. My mama did that for years with 5 of us. I hear my lady in one ear. Like, I understand what she's saying. As a man, this don't feel comfortable, but at the same time, it's comfortable because it's so familiar. Because I watched my old girl, who, God forbid, I ain't finna let none of you niggas say nothing wrong by her. She did it. I watched her work 2-3 jobs. Stay up late, fix our food, help us with homework. My daddy never came around. I watched my mama do it, and I want to believe my girl is a strong black woman like my mama was. So at the same time, I'm hearing Bay, but I ain't hearing Bay. So my behavior is continuing while I'm verbally saying, I get what you're saying, Bay, and I'm going to do better. Who can relate? Who understand what I'm breaking down?
I definitely can relate.
Definitely understand.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Basically the logic is the man's going to receive your logic, and the logic is correct, but it's contrasting with his core beliefs.
Come on, Linwood. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the idea is, if you understand what I'm explaining about your paradigms, your core beliefs, they control your actions. The logic in the conscious talk does not control your action. That's why as humans, we can know all the information to do better financially and not use none of it because of our program beliefs. If you sat around poverty-stricken behavior for so long, somebody could give you all the information about credit, financial literacy. It'll take you a long time to move on it, depending on how strong of a hold them program beliefs got on you. So like Linwood said, men can always receive logic, but rather their behavior change has to do with what the fuck is embedded in them. And when it's embedded in me that it was not a problem for a woman to do everything, you're going to have a certain space with me where there will be unfairness until I grow up out of this programming. We have a good majority of the dating pool. If you're not getting into upper class or a good portion of the middle class, and even there are numbers in those areas of the financial status in this country that are still experiencing it, because it's not specifically about money. It's about character. It's about what you were programmed to believe through what you saw, not through what your mammy told you.
And look, I had a guy tell me he was raised by his mama, so he know how to treat a woman. And I was like, it's kind of different, like, because you didn't have a man show you how to treat a woman. You got your mama around. You think you know how to, he know the traits of a woman. He know how to treat a woman. That's what he was saying.
And Cam, I'm so glad you said that. Now let's get into why we are so easily fooled by these type of men. And I'm going to be so blunt. This is going to be, very triggering to some of y'all, male or female. But the idea is, a man growing up all his life up under his mama, right? Watching a woman do everything. You not only see the hardworking raise of an independent woman, you see the other side too. where niggas got away with fuck shit with your mama at times, the stuff that weighed on her, the stuff that broke her down, the stuff. So as you collect all of this inside data, it's like a man infiltrating the blueprint of women. Think about what I'm saying. It's like when you let a girl in the male locker room. This is essentially letting a boy in the female locker room, and he's hiding out in a locker watching all of the things that we go through, right? When he gets grown, when you are not disciplined, mature, understand the concept of what a man is, all that you learned about women from being up under your mother for 18, 19 years, it will show up in your character a good majority of the times in ways to manipulate women out of their care, their nurture, their affection, their eggs, their body, their household, their space. This is why, although a lot of these niggas that I'm talking about are prison bound, undisciplined when it comes to sex and finances, they're so good at connecting with us. They're so good at sitting down and infiltrating the mind of a woman. Whereas if you go get one of those dudes your grandma was talking about, he's not as skilled at this as the ones that I'm talking about, because he grew up with men teaching him to get out in the workforce, get out in the world, do something, young blood, be useful, young nigga. Hey, slime, go on and do what you're gonna do. Rather it's thugging, drugging, whatever it is, walking the straight and narrow, boy, you got to go be you. He wasn't sitting up in the house under his mama, buying his shoes, taking care of everything, watching her ways, to the point where it's these kind of men feel uncomfortable to us to date and go out with, because the fuck nigga with his mama ways that don't got no real discipline playing the game all day, he connect with me so well in a conversation. Like he know things about, like we can laugh about certain stuff. We can connect about certain things. We can, like he know shit. And you don't realize he knows shit until it's too late. It's like, damn, I done had 2 babies with this fuck nigga. And I know he a fuck nigga, but the other niggas that got their own house, you know, their own goals, pussy is not the top of their, priority list. When they get up every day, they doing man shit. I don't really feel connected when I'm dating these kind of niggas. Like it feels so, I'm masculine as fuck. I'm overly independent. I fit with the fuck nigga that ain't pulling his weight and he got a talk game on him. And we connect emotionally and he get this pussy every time.
That love bombing phase be a motherfucker.
It goes on for a long time. Go ahead.
That was me last year. Like, I had my very first relationship in my 20s. So, like, I didn't know that I was broken and unhealed, not from a relationship, but, like, it was more so a family issue. So, like, I started coming into my own as a woman, getting a little bit more money, and men can smell brokenness on you.
Yep.
Like, you may not think you're broken or naive,
yep,
and you may think, you're cute, you're pretty, you got it going on, but I don't know what it is, but men can see it and they can smell it on you. So that's what I attracted. I attracted a user who was raised by his mother, and he would compliment me all the time, like, you're so hardworking, you're so independent. Like, I literally used to, like,
feeding the ego, Alizé.
Feeding
Feeding the ego. He's feeding the ego, but where do you think he gets it from? When a nigga sit up and watch his mama work like a motherfucking nigga and take care of everything, and you watch as people tell your mama, girl, you doing a good job with them kids. He's seeing this boosting my mama up. You go get you one of them same type of females you can ride her back to the motherfucking ground by telling her the same shit you saw a bitch tell your single mama. This shit is ruining our culture. It's not reflective of what's best for our babies. It does not produce good men. It does not produce healthy women. It does not make it where the relationship is balanced. It makes it where you have a good majority of the community of men. How can I say this? Let me backtrack a bit. You have a percentage of the male community that are the type of men that I am talking about, that they are the ones that fit with independent women. So if you look at the statistics, this group of men are fathering a good majority of the children in these broken homes. because the men that are on some grown man shit can't connect with the type of women that we are empowering each other to be. But the ones that can connect, the puzzle piece that fits with the overly independent, masculine, single mama minded bitch is one of these type of dudes. A providing grown good man does not fit with this type of woman.
Yeah, that shit right there hard.
It don't fit. There's no pocket for him to be a man. And they are not. They are, excuse me, Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I say, even trying to date that with kids or without kids, just a woman, like, you ain't got to say nothing. Like, for real, you can just be quiet and just operate. And you still can look masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just walking through the door, you just told me you don't even deserve for me to open the door for you. And that might be the type of dude I am.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, damn, so you must not be used to dudes really, like, courting you or anything like that, like seeing what type of woman you are. Mm-hmm. So, boom, that right there just jumped out. And you ain't even open your mouth.
Mm-hmm. They getting, but what I'm putting into context, Frank, is the dudes that are not like that are getting a good majority of the pussy. They're fathering a good majority of the children that are ending up fatherless. There are a good majority of women, they cannot process this type of conversation. When I talk like this, they're so triggered, they cannot receive that this girl is really, this woman is really, this female is really giving us the blueprint to fix this shit, right? But the idea is those niggas will continue to get the majority out of the pussy out of those type of women, because like you're describing, she don't fit with a providing man. The men that don't abandon their children or say fuck that, the men that can spot that you fucked up right away, they ain't finna fuck you. Regardless of how fine you look. Because when you get into men that, I work hard for what I built. My daddy, my uncles, the men in my family taught me, I don't give a damn if I got it out the street or got it out of corporate. What I built, I need to be valued and disciplined about that. I'm not just going and grabbing any old woman and allowing her to infiltrate or have access to the shit I physically, mentally, emotionally worked hard for. But a nigga with nothing or will make a baby with anybody. A nigga with nothing chasing the feeling of a nut with anybody. The idea is men on all levels will take undisciplined sexual risks at times in their life. But the type of women that they're willing to take that risk with shows you all the difference.
Yep, that's what I did. Mm-hmm. Paying for it.
And when you grow up, you realize if I was going to be irresponsible over again in regards to just sex, I would be more responsible about who I'm irresponsible with, if that makes sense. Because there are those of us that we have children and we're not with the child's father or the child's mother, but we co-parent just fine because we don't have them fucked up ass beliefs that are centered around emotion. We don't have this concept that the child is better off with one or the other. We understand that equally, I don't tell you how to be a dad. You don't tell me how to be a mother. We allow the child to just be a child and experience both of us. That is not the teaching or the programming throughout our society right now, throughout our culture right now. And this is one of the main factors that weighs against the conversation of what is a good man. Do y'all understand that?
Yes.